All right, in this video, I'm going to throw you 6'4" guys a bone just because you've been pretty loyal to the channel here. Oh, look at that. It's still got play in it. And we're going to take this turbo apart. We're probably going to do the low pressure one too. This is the high pressure one. This is the big one I want to take apart because I want to see what this looks like inside. Oh, there's Powerstroke Panther going underneath in the junk. Right there. Anyway, yeah, we're going to take this apart because I want to know what it looks like inside because I want to settle a little argument that I had yesterday with a guy, which I will describe here shortly. I'll put a timestamp in if you want to skip my tirade. But we're going to take this apart because I want to know what it looks like inside. I want irrefutable evidence of what type of turbo this is. So for those of you that don't know or maybe need a little refresher, the 6.4 Powerstroke, which is the same as the Max Force 7, utilizes sequential turbochargers, compound turbos, whatever the hell. Two turbos, but not technically a twin turbo because that's a little bit different setup. And basically what you have is a low pressure, which is right there underneath the bench. It's a low pressure turbo, which feeds boost into this high pressure turbo, which in theory, at least as far as I am aware, is this one is variable geometry, okay? Which is a VGT, variable geometry turbocharger. The 6.0 Powerstrokes had the same thing. I like the VGT. The advantages to it, it provides way faster boost times. There's like no delay. And it also provides better, more optimal boost at all engine speeds and not just certain engine speeds. Like your 7.3, if I'm understanding everything right, which I mean, I might be wrong. Everyone's wrong from time to time. But if I'm understanding right, and like your 7.3, you boost it, you spool it up and you get your boost. And then there's a certain point at which that boost is effective. Okay, and then you get outside that RPM range and it doesn't work. There's like a boost curve, right? Well, with the VGT, there is still technically a boost curve, but it's way more efficient. And it's able to compensate a lot easier for different operating conditions, and it just makes your engine run better. And it's especially important with your common rail, your high-pressure common rail, because So, about the argument. A little bit of context first. I work part-time at a local truck repair. And I've learned a lot up there because big trucks, over-the-road trucks, not really too knowledgeable about them. I still am not, but I know how to do brakes and stuff now and look for wheel seals leaking and all that, which is an important skill. So I'm talking to the mechanic there, and he's been working on stuff for a long time, probably about as long as I've been alive. And he's worked on everything, including Max Force 7s and a couple 6.4 Powerstrokes. He drives one. It's his daily, okay? And so this truck comes in yesterday, and it's got an oil cooler going out. The guy was pretty sure. Getting coolant and oil, that's not good. And I ask him, I say, well, where's the oil cooler at? And he's like, oh, it's right here behind the VGT here. I was like, oh, I like those. And he said, oh, yeah, I bet you do if you like problems. And I said to him, well, what do you mean? That 6.4's got a VGT, and it's never given us really any problems. I mean, this one, obviously, yes, is not supposed to do that. And it's not supposed to do that. But honestly, like I said in the Powerstroke turbo replacement video series that I did, if the guy that done this originally had done it right, I'm pretty sure it would have been fine. But really, it ran a long time, and we were pretty hard on it, and it didn't give us a lot of problems until the end there. We caught it at just the right time and all that. And he said, well, that Powerstroke doesn't have a variable geometry turbo on it. And I look at him, and I say, because he said it's got sequential turbochargers. It's got two turbos on it. It's like, well, yeah, a low pressure and a high pressure. I said the high pressure is variable geometry. He said, no, it's not. And at this point, I thought, okay, maybe I misunderstood what all the literature I've read and all the people in the forums have said and all the things I've watched about how this turbo setup works and all that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I misinterpreted what they were saying. Maybe they left out an important piece of information. So I ask him, I say, okay, if that's the case, what's the actuator for? Because there's an actuator that runs a thing on this. Well, I always thought, like a sensible person would, that it runs variable vanes in the housing here. I think it's this one. And that's, what controls your airflow and stuff and gives you your real nice boost. And he said, oh, no, that's not what it does. Okay, well, what does it do then? If it doesn't run vanes inside of here as a variable geometry turbocharger, what does it do? well, it's got like a door in there that it like restricts exhaust flow, and it's like more of an exhaust brake or something. It's not really variable geometry. And at this point I was like, you are full of it. There is no goddamn way. And so that bothered me all day yesterday. So I spent part of the evening last night and most of this morning double checking my literature to see how they describe this and how it worked. And then I went online and looked up, okay, well, how did other people describe this and how it works? And then I thought, well, that's not really good enough, because even though both of those things pointed to this high pressure being a VGT, I'm like, well, that's not good enough. I want more. And so I go and I look up, well, what parts are available for this? Let's say I was going to rebuild one of these. Well, what all can I get for it? Well, ProSource Diesel lists a unison ring kit for this very high pressure turbo right here. And I thought, well, that's pretty damning evidence in favor of this being a VGT, because I even looked up the definition of a variable geometry turbo to make sure that I was, understanding stuff right, and I am. And so I was like, well, that's not good enough, because then it dawned on me that I have this out here, and I thought, I'm going to take this apart and I'm going to see what's in here, and then I'm going to settle it right once and for all. Is this a VGT or is it something different? Because everything that I've read and everything that I've seen points to this high pressure turbo being variable, which is why it's so good. Now, it's entirely possible that this guy was screwing with me, which he has done before on multiple occasions. But on something like this, he generally doesn't screw with me. I can't think of a time when he has, and I couldn't tell that he was. But then I'm also like, well, there's no way, because he's taken apart Max Force 7s, right? He's pulled turbos off these. How does he not know how they work? He's got to have taken one apart. There's no way he didn't. And he's trying to tell me it's not a VGT. So we're just going to find out here, and then I'll have it on video what it actually is, if he wants to argue with me again. And then we'll see. Now, if I'm wrong and it's not, all right, I'll eat it. I'll take a big old heaping spoonful of I told you so, and we'll go on about life that way. But we're going to get this one apart and figure out what's in it. And then we'll probably go and take that low pressure one apart too, even though I don't think it's bad. I think this is the one that really was bad. So let's get started. All right, well, that's about the most optimal angle I can get you at. So I did move these the other day because I did some cleaning from where they were at. And originally we were going to send these back to Diesel Logic, which is where we got the original set. And then we never did. So we have cores now. And I'm not sending them back to them now. It's mine. So what we're going to do to start with is, I've never taken a turbo apart before, and I don't know how much is involved, to be honest with you. Oh, look, there's that actuator thing that's supposed to actuate things. So I guess we'll just start by taking these clamps off here and see what that does for us. This is going to be such a fun video. You guys excited? And it looks like it's just a clamp here. Yeah. And if I am disassembling this like a caveman, if any of you have done this before and you're watching just because you're bored, I've never done this before, and this thing's already shot, okay? So I can't make it worse, right? Because, yeah, I can't make it worse. So we're just going to take that clamp all the way off. Oh, well, that's easy. Look at that. She just comes right off. Well, there's still got oil in it. And, yeah. This is actually really light. I figured this would be heavier. There we go. And there's that clamp. Put back together so we don't lose it. I'm going to have to put this back together so I can stick it under the bench again, but it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so now man, that thing's heavy. Now, if we look at this, oh, yeah, this was definitely not happy about life. Let me see. Let's come in here and get close. As you can see, this thing, outside of the dirt in there, that's probably just from sitting in the shop. But I'm pretty sure this right over here is not what you want to see on your turbine wheel. That's bad. Ooh, yeah. She moves. All right. So next, thankfully they give us a flat here I guess, where we can get on with a wrench and pull her off. Or maybe someone milled a flat in that so they could pull it off with a wrench. I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's no. No. If I'm supposed to hold this with channel locks, oh, it doesn't like that either. That's 17. Are you kidding me? The one wrench size that this didn't come with is the one that I need. Or we could just use a pipe wrench. I mean, who cares, right? Benefits of having a junk turbo are that it doesn't matter if you like scratch a bunch of stuff up. I mean, what's the worst I can do? Bend these fins? Are you not supposed to hammer on the compressor wheel like that? Yeah, it's already shot, so I don't really care. We're gonna use channel locks to see if we can get her off that way. Because remember, we're farmers. Well, I am. You guys may not be. But, well, yeah, we'll do it that way. I don't know how tight this is supposed to be on here. It's not happy. Maybe you're supposed to use an impact to take that off? Pretty sure I'm doing it wrong. That's okay. Tell you what, we'll do this side. Oh, hey, would you look at that? They give you a provision to put a little socket in there. Isn't that handy? Almost like we should have looked first. Wow. Yeah, see, this is why on stuff like this, I try and be clear when I say I've never done this before, because then when I do it wrong, you guys aren't mad at me. What size is that? That's probably not a size I have readily available. All right, well, good news. She identifies as 5/8 on this end. And, yeah, so we're just going to do this and totally not break it. I don't think it likes that. Ask me if I care. Maybe we should, yeah. Let's try that. We'll really break it now. Is it backwards threaded? You guys think it's backwards threaded? No, surely not. Why would it be backwards threaded? We're either going to get this off or twist it off. I don't know which. Place your bets. Okay. New strategy. We're going to see if it's backwards threaded. Oh. It is. Okay, problem solved. It's backwards threaded. I don't know why I didn't think about that. There we go. All right, so yes, to get this off, it is backwards. This is why, yeah. So we don't want that anymore. We're gonna, that's 12. Where'd my 11 go? Oh, that's 10. I can't read. There we go. 11 mil here. Ooh. Is that supposed to be stuck? I don't think so. Nope, she's not supposed to be stuck on there. Well, there's that clamp. These clamps actually are in pretty good shape. This might fit the Versatile, actually. Sometimes it needs an upper exhaust clamp where it comes off the manifold, you know? So we might use that. Okay. Where's my hammer? Now, we're just going to delicately yes, delicately. Because as you can see, I got it started by, delicately working in screwdrivers and little bit of penetrating. No, I'm just kidding. I beat the shit out of it with a hammer until it started to come apart, and it's almost there. So we're going to see here. We'll twist this back up. That's totally good for it, right? Oh, yeah, it loves it. And now that we're done delicately beating it so it'll start to open, we'll drive chisels in until it opens up the rest of the way. Oh, look at that. Just a little bit of rest. Nothing a hammer can't solve. All right. Okay, well, here we have it apart. Okay, well, unfortunately, I can't take the rest of... Let's see, this would be the unison ring, so then what this would be, I don't know. But it does, as you can see right down in here, you can see, oh, look at that, variable vanes? No way. Now, you have to be careful, because if you do turn this too far, it'll throw all of these out, and then it kind of sucks to put this ring back in. That's about as far as I can go before you can't go back. But, yeah, I mean, if we look in there, oh, look at that. Wow. That looks to me like a variable geometry turbocharger. So, there we go. That's pretty cool. Yeah, but if I had some special 12 points that would fit on those, I would totally pull that off and see what everything looks like in there. It does move, but you can tell it's just really carboned up. It probably... may have, yeah. So there you go. That should settle that argument on whether or not the high pressure turbocharger on a 6.4 Powerstroke is in fact variable, because it is. Damn it, I threw it out of sync. See what I mean? Yeah. So I imagine the actuator's set up to where you can't actually do that, but I just threw it out. So now there's no way to shove them back in. So now it's permanently locked in that position. Now I don't know if this pulls in more air or less air in this position. I would assume more, but that's just me. So now that we've settled really the main thing I set out to settle here, and I know for 100% certainty that this is in fact a VGT, we will get the bench cleared, and we'll see about taking that low pressure turbo apart, see what it looks like in there. All right, so here we have the low pressure turbo with a reman sticker on it right here, which tells me that this has 100% been replaced before, but the other one has not. So again, I will start by removing that clamp, assuming I can find the right socket, because you start taking stuff apart, you just kind of haphazardly throw your tools everywhere and then forget where you put them all. That's that too. So this one, and I will show, actually. This one, I actually thought there is just a tad bit of movement in here, but it's actually in pretty good shape, which is why I thought that this turbo was actually good and the other one was not. But I went all over this in the turbo replacement video, and just for reference, I don't want to have to do that again. If you guys think I forgot how much that sucked, you're dead wrong. So... okay, well, this one, in theory, should also come apart if we hammer on it, but I don't want to get too extreme necessarily. So we'll just... They say, I imagine somebody out there is going to say, oh, you shouldn't beat on the turbine housing like that. Well, ask me if I care. Because honestly, if I was going to put this back on anything, it would be getting a cartridge in both turbos. So... missed. There we go. There it comes. It's probably fine. Yeah. It's probably fine, right? Oh, it loves it. Now this here is just a housing. So we'll just set it aside. Here we come to this. I will get you guys up close here in a minute. But yeah, this one is actually not damaged. Well, I suppose it's a little bit, but it's not. It's just like it should be. And then this side, I mean, it might be damaged now that I hit it on the bench. This side, we won't be able to tell until we get all this apart. Show you the up close here. I mean, yes, I did hit it on the bench a little bit there, but it's not in near as bad a shape as the other one. But still, like I said, if I was going to put these back on an engine, they would be getting cartridges brand new, regardless of what kind of shape they were in, because to me, that's just kind of cheap insurance. So I will remove all this, and then we'll come back. All right, 5 bolts out. It should just separate right here. So we will, this time, probably delicately tap on it. There we go. It started. There we go. And an O-ring. And this side, honestly, does not look bad either. We'll get you in here a little bit better in just a second. So here we have our other housing with our cavity back in there and all that. This doesn't look like it's been run through or anything. Maybe a little nick where I delicately hammered on it, but that's about it. And so then this here, this side looks really good. I mean, it really does. I don't see any. I mean, the nicks are probably from where I dropped it on the bench or tapped it a little too much. But yeah, it doesn't look too bad. So there we have it. Our turbocharger. I don't know that I want to try and take this off. There's really no play in it. I kind of want to take it off. But if I do, I'll do it off camera because... yeah. So, there we go. 2 successfully disassembled turbochargers, which most of the weight is right here in these rusty pieces. These are aluminum, which is nice. But, yeah. All right, well, on the heels of having both of these disassembled and proving that this one over here is, in fact, variable geometry, what I will now discuss is the plan for the 6.4. So it's pretty simple, really. Initially, we were going to try and do an engine rebuild. Pull the motor, tear it down, make sure it wasn't completely foobarred, send it off for machine work, get it back, new rotating assembly. I mean, we'd probably save the crank and the rods, but new pistons, rings, cylinder heads, injectors, the whole 9 yards. Well, what we have decided instead is, due to budgetary constraints mainly, what I'm going to do is take it into that truck repair that I talked about in town, and I'm going to pull a cab off, I'm going to pull the cylinder heads, see if it's even worth rebuilding. And if I get in there and I'm like, well, we could probably do something, then essentially what we're going to do is underhaul it. So we'll just do bearings, rings. I'd like to do pistons. We'll probably put new injectors in it, new cylinder heads, and some other related things, and then go on down the road. But it's going to have to be in pretty damn good shape. The bearings are going to have to look almost perfect. The pistons are going to have to be not cracked, which is asking a lot. Or if they are cracked, they're going to have to be, not cracked much. And then I'm going to have to go and see what parts are available and how much they're going to cost, how long it's going to take them to get here, etc., and so on. And so that's the plan. And we're going to keep it under a certain amount. I'm not going to say how much right now, but that's the plan. And we'll reuse the high pressure fuel pump and the turbos and all the other stuff. And we'll just we'll look it over real good, or I will anyway, and make sure that everything's going to be okay. So yep, that's the plan for the 6.4. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, and unfortunately, because I'm going to take it to town to do all that, I don't know how much video I'm actually going to be able to do. But I will do my best to, at the very least, take some pictures and put a video together so you guys kind of have an overview of what's going on. I'd like to do it a lot differently, but that is just not the case. So, at the very least, you got to see me disassemble the turbo here, and if we get a day where the wind's not blowing too much, I will go fire up the 6.4, and that might make you guys happy, just to see how bad it is, because I don't think I've ever fired it up and let people listen to it for very long. It does not sound good, and I don't even know that it will start right now. It might need to be charged, but regardless, that is the plan moving forward. Look, I'm going to do my best because a lot of people are here interested in what I do with that pickup. So I'm going to keep you guys posted as much as I possibly can. But I thought if I was going to come out here and tear these apart to prove a point, I might as well throw you guys a bone. So there you go. Now you know how your turbos come apart. Probably. Maybe a little less use of the hammer if you do this yourself. And if you're going to put cartridges in, don't try and tighten this, because these are the backwards threaded units. And then just, I guess, be very careful. It does not take much to bend these fins. So I guess if you're interested in rebuilding a turbo, there you go. That's what's involved. And that ought to do it for this video, such as it is. All right, so before I end the video here, I want to throw in just a couple more things. First thing is, I did go ahead and take this low pressure turbo the rest of the way apart. It's actually not hard to get apart unless you're dumb like I am. So if you get this nut off here, which is backwards threaded, so just hold this end and get this nut off, and then hold this side, and you should be able to spin this compressor wheel and pull it right off. And yes, by the way, I know my terminology was off through the whole video. The clean side is going to be your compressor, because this is what's compressing the fresh filtered air. And this is going to be your turbine, because that's what's spinning under the power of the exhaust gas, right? This is what is getting all the raw exhaust gas all over it, which everyone loves. So I wanted to throw that in. Now, the other thing is, and I want to talk about this just real quick. I'll throw a thing up on screen to kind of illustrate how the exhaust flow works on this. It's pretty simple. If you have your EGR stuff on, it's going to be a little bit different, but basically your exhaust gas is going to come off your manifolds right into the back of your high pressure turbo, okay? And we'll talk about the variable part of this and why it's nice here in a minute. But it comes in here and it spins the high pressure turbine, right? It then kicks that exhaust gas over to the low pressure turbo and throws it out the tailpipe. But that exhaust gas is also spinning the low pressure turbine, which in turn, because both turbines are spinning, both compressor wheels are also spinning. Well, the compressor wheel would be right here on this one and right there on that one. But so what happens then is your compressor wheel spinning on your low pressure turbo is sucking in fresh air, compressing it, kicking it over to the high pressure turbo compressor side, which compresses it a little more, then sends it through the charge air cooler, which is on the front of the engine, because when you compress air, it gets hot, and it cools it down, and then sends it back to the intake manifold where it's sucked in and then burned, right, forced into your engine. And then if you have your EGR stuff on, a portion of your EGR, or not your EGR, but a portion of your exhaust gas is going to be sent from the manifold through the lower EGR cooler and the upper EGR cooler, where it will be mixed at the point where the fresh air comes off the charge air cooler, and it mixes those together so that they are burned. It's, nice idea on paper, didn't work great in practice. And this is why the DPF is such a problem. That's why you could probably get away with an EGR cooler, but the DPF is what killed so many of these, is because when that thing clogs up with soot, which diesel soot, who would have thought, and putting a filter on an exhaust system where there's a bunch of soot, that's going to clog and cause excess back pressure, which is going to stall here, and it's also going to stall here, which is going to make this not want to come in, and it's just going to blow all sorts of stuff up that you don't want to do. Makes things hot, makes it work harder, starts just wearing on stuff really, really quickly, and no one likes that. So about the variable part of this here on the exhaust side, the reason that this is so nice and the reason that these are better than just regular wastegate turbos that, exist, is because this you don't have to spool up. because of the way this is designed, those vanes can change, right? And so they will grab more or less depending on the volume of air coming in, which is all monitored by your various sensors and all that, which means that at idle or high idle, you go to take off, you need boost, you need power. Well, you don't have to wind the turbo up because that exhaust pressure that's coming through, this thing can utilize better because it can grab that air more and spin more with less input. That's why it's so nice. And then at higher speeds, it can, back off so it's not constantly grabbing all the time. That way, you've got low end boost with minimum exhaust input, and then at the higher end, when you have high exhaust input, you still have plenty of boost, but you don't have overboost or underboost, right? Because this can vary and grab differently depending on how much exhaust is coming into it. And it's pretty nice when it works. And in my experience, these are really pretty reliable. The reason that these die is because of excess factors. It's not really because the turbos were a bad design or anything like that. It's more like you're putting bad fuel in, it's too much soot. You're either flooring it or letting it idle. You don't just easily accelerate. So you're throwing too much fuel in there. It can't burn it all at once. It smokes, because people think that makes them look cool. I disagree. That'll clog it up with carbon. That's my understanding is that's one of the reasons it killed the turbochargers on the 6.0 Powerstrokes is because same thing happened, poor fuel quality and all that. Eventually it would carbon up in there from all the soot and stuff, and then it would seize, and so then this wouldn't boost at all, or it would boost all the time, and you don't want either of those because it makes your truck gutless or way too powerful, and it just won't work right. So that's how all that works, and I wanted to throw in that stuff. So yes, I know my terminology and all that was off, but bigger thing is we proved that this is variable, which is what I thought. And yes, I suppose it does kind of act as an exhaust brake, although I always figured at least on the automatic transmission pickups, it was more of a transmission brake than an exhaust brake, but I could be wrong on that. So, yep, there you go. That's all the additional information you should need.